let me give you an inside secret right now, and I'm going to show you an example of it. The business that you want to be in now is tax liens and tax deeds, but you want to think about land. You see, everybody day to day is thinking about real estate. They live in a home. They grew up in a home. They heard that you could buy these fixer-uppers and make a lot of money. I'm not against any of that. But when you go to the auctions, people bid these up. So I'm going to say, think about buying land. We have many clients.
Just raw land.
Just raw land or residential lots. For example, let's say there's a subdivision that's got many houses around like on the lake behind me, there's 6 houses around the lake. Now, the 6 of us own this lake. But if there was a lot somewhere on the lake and it went to tax sale, we'd probably fight over it to get it. But the people don't know when those tax sales are coming up. So if you could buy that lot, now you've got something that's really powerful. But if you go to the auction, and you get to the auction, you're going to find out nobody wants those properties. Now, I'm going to give you 2 examples of it. The first example I'm going to give you is an example of Los Angeles County. The last auction, if I showed you the auction book, I'm looking around my desk. If I showed you the auction book, it would be about, how do I do that? Turn my fingers this way. Think of the auction book as being about 3 inches wide in Los Angeles. So they had 2,000 properties at the auction. 2,000. And guess what? When the auction was all said and done, they closed the auction down. There was still 1,000 properties left over that nobody bid on. And if you went and checked it, they were all raw land. Or they were farmland or something like that. So I had 3 of my students here and I said, why didn't you buy those? Well, we don't know anything about land. Now, so there's the play. All right, now let me give you an example. We're going to put up a picture, okay? So while we're talking, the picture that's coming up right now is a picture of Bob Schumacher. And he's standing on a lake. It's a beautiful lake, much bigger lake than what I have here behind me. Much bigger lake. So all woods around it. For people in the city, they dream about having a lot on one of these lakes where they put their boat in and make their home for the retirement or whatever. So he bought this lot, and it shows right on the picture. This lot was worth $40,000. He bought it for $3,700 at the tax auction. Now let's think about that. It's worth $40,000. He bought it for 10 cents on the dollar. Now I always teach people what you should do is hang in there, just buy it low and then sell it low. Kind of a Walmart approach, buy low, sell low. Everybody else is always saying buy low and sell high. The hell with that. Buy low and then just sell it quick. He made a 600% profit on that property in 120 days. That's good, huh?
I'd have to say that the best dollar-for-dollar deal I've ever done on a piece of land, it happened in Oklahoma. I went out to an outlying county and I bought a tax lien. The tax lien was on a 25-acre piece of land. The tax lien was only $67.12. You'd think that nobody would ever abandon a piece of land for that small of a tax bill, but things like that do happen. And guess what? Those people never did pay that tax. They never redeemed that tax lien, and I ended up getting the tax deed to that property. I eventually sold that piece of land for $22,500. It's not uncommon to make $10,000 or $20,000 off of a deal.
Right. In this case, 1, I don't need as much money, and 2, once I buy it, there's no other obligation to the IRA. Is that correct?
Right. And here's a little bit different strategy than most people teach. And it's not really super contrarian, but what I really teach people to do here is we just looked at a picture of Bob Schumacher, and I'm going to give you another example of a professional here in a minute. We'll talk a little bit about professionals, but Bob buys that property. We had a picture of him a few minutes ago that showed he bought it for $3,700 and he sold it for $24,000. But that's the key. He's buying and selling. Now he has that money. Go do it again. Because it's another auction. Whereas a lot of people want to buy real estate, hold on to it, do the rentals and all that. I'm not suggesting anybody do that. I'm suggesting buy these properties. And I don't think that these properties are going to be pristine. But if we're going to say buy it low and sell it low, make a $10,000 or $15,000 profit on a tax auction and just move it, let someone else make some money. This business of buying and holding, I can tell you, I have at least 10,000 clients that got killed in this past market drop. We talked a little bit about Canadians, and I was recently teaching a class in Toronto, and a woman walked in the class, and this is pretty amazing. You'll like this. She walked in the class, we were already in the middle of the class, and she said, "Do you remember me?" And I got to tell you, I didn't remember her. Anyway, she's 83 years old, and you're going to love this little clip. I did a little clip. Her name is Dorothea, and I said, "Dorothea, let's sit down, and we're going to tell some of the people in the States." And so just watch this short video. We're in Toronto, and she's doing this video, and she's really articulate at 83-year-old. So listen to this. Hi, everyone. We're sitting in Toronto, Canada, and I'm speaking with
Dorothea Gardner, and I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I took Ted's course 4 years ago. But I started with $30,000, and I made that into $130,000.
Wow, congratulations. Was it surprising to you to see how low some of the properties could be purchased? Were you surprised when you first saw that?
Oh, everybody is. That's what shocks them. They're absolutely shocked that if they had $2,000, they might be able to get a property worth $70,000 in the States. The American prices are lower than the Canadian prices, which shocks people in the first place.
Right.
But if they buy a deed for a few thousand, 5,000, 6,000, they may get that house worth 70 or 80,000.
Fantastic.
And
you don't have to do too many deals like that to be pretty happy. Yeah. I find it concerning sometimes when I'm talking to people after summer. They say, "Oh, well, I'm a Canadian. I don't know if they'll like us in the United States and all that." I mean, did you get a good reception from the people there? Was it okay? Or
No problem at all. You just go in to any of the offices there. We never had a problem. You ask for the information, they give it to you, and they're most helpful.
All right, that's true. Okay, well, there you have it. She started out with $30,000. She traveled around the southern part of the United States, and she turned it into $130,000. That's not unusual. Let me just show you another guy that's over in Toronto. It's a friend of not only mine, but it's also a friend of yours. And his name is Chris. And Chris started out with $200. And listen what happened to Chris with his $200.
I learned about tax liens from you many years ago. You came to Vancouver, you taught some people about tax liens, what they were, how they worked, and how us as Canadians could go down to the United States and invest in different tax lien properties and tax sale properties. And I got pretty excited about what I learned because I thought, well, this is something that I could do. There was not a huge investment required, and I actually invested in several properties, several different tax certificates, and it didn't take long before I got a phone call and I realized that actually I ended up owning some properties right at the very beginning. I don't know if it was beginner's luck or taking your course or doing what you taught me, but it worked out pretty exciting. I bought was this one right here, and the total certificate cost $132.50. And 2 months went by, and then I was mailed this piece of paper right here, which is actually the deed to the property. I actually ended up owning the property. This is the picture right here. What happened to me was I thought, well, I don't live there, and how can I do what you taught me to do, which is get rid of it really quickly? And so I went and knocked on the house next door, and this guy answered the door. His name is Kevin, and so I said, "Kevin, what do you feel this property's worth?" He said, "About $15,000. I said, "Would you take 10? He said, "Sure." And here we are shaking hands on the deal right there. And it didn't take long before I got another letter mailed to me, and it was for the deed to this property right here. The actual tax lien certificate cost about $2,000, and this particular property was worth over $100,000.
Well, I know everybody would like to do that. He put $200 in, and he sold it for $10,000. I'd like to say every deal is like that, but it's not. But, you know, it just shows you can start out small in this business, buy it, and quickly resell it, and go ahead and make some money. And I have hundreds of these kinds of testimonials. But for those of you that have never done anything like this, you need to learn it because it's a way of life now. People are going to lose property to foreclosure for the rest of our lives because the economy is so up and down, and we're going to have people that just refuse to pay taxes. And there's going to be, as I said when we started, there's 100 million homes, and about 2 to 2.5 to 3 million people will not pay their taxes this year. Now, we're not just talking about homes. We are talking about ranch land. We are talking about residential land. We're talking about office building. We're talking about shopping centers. It's the whole gamut. It's just something that a person needs to learn how to do, and it's not difficult.
Okay, good. Will you come back and teach us how to do it in more detail?
Why don't we schedule a time and we can just have a class and we'll spend about an hour together and I'll go from A to Z and then people can learn how to do it.
Okay, I'll specifically notify you folks who are listening in on this call, and we'll get Ted back here in the next few weeks and see what we can do. Thank you, Ted.
You're welcome. Thank you. I was glad to be here.